afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Healthy Home, Healthy Life. Today we're going to be talking about passive homes. What does that mean? What's the upside? What can you expect when you're talking to Ario about wanting to bring elements of passive home into your living space? So anyhow, let's just dive right in with Ario's brilliance. Take it away, Ario.
Thank you. Actually, the correct word is passive house. Passive house is a brand name of a system from, oh my God, I didn't have to expect that notification right in the middle of the conversation. Passive house is a brand started from Germany. I think it was over 20 years ago. I can't remember now the date, but doesn't matter. All the point is how we want to create an energy efficient home. For so long we were building homes that it was just building to give us a roof over our head, and over the years we find out, oh okay, my God, we have to make our home more energy efficient because especially with the cost of energy going up, we want to not only create a house or a home to make much more energy efficient, which basically means that we put less money on our bills, on our gas or electrical or whatever it is. At the same time, make our home much more livable in terms of comfort, in terms of air quality, in terms of the how the heat and the cool spreads out all around the home. I remember when I was a kid, we had the heaters that they were running by with the fuel, and then you just sit around that heater, and that was the heat, the most heated area. And if you were just 2 feet away or 3 feet away from it, you really feel the cold, because the heating system was not sufficient enough. But besides that, there were so many holes everywhere, from windows, from doors, from name it, that they were sucking the warm air, and the cold air was coming in. So over the years, I'm not talking about I'm like a dinosaur. I'm not too old, but I'm talking about just like 50 or 45 years ago. We still had, even today, there are so many places that we have homes that they're not built properly, either because of their windows or single pane, or they're too old in terms of the old-fashioned in terms of the details, how they built. So as a result of that, the energy that we create, or the heat that we create or cool that we create in the house, it will get lost through the whole amount of holes that exist, or draft that is available in our rooms or our homes, that we are losing those conditions air, better to say, because for example, when we live in Canada, and we have maybe 6 to 8 months of the year we are dealing with cold weather, and there's sometimes in like a couple of months in a year that we are dealing with warm weather. There are some other places in the world that either is 50-50 or different combination of the timing. So we're not just talking about how to make our homes warm. We got to talk about how we can keep our home cool as well. So if you say, okay, how, it's so simple. Somebody else already found the solution long time ago. Just install either air conditioner or furnace, call it a day. That's correct. That's many people are doing it that anyway. But how we can keep the money in our pocket, that not to let it go out of our pocket or getting out of the house. or our
You
our
know,
rooms.
a few years ago, I had just bought a townhouse, which the high density housing has some advantages with this too, when you're
Yes.
sharing walls with people or you're living above people. But this particular, I bought my house in November. I had an inspection done on it, and 3 days after I moved in, the furnace broke. It was December now. And I had spent all of my money on the house. I didn't have $10,000 for a new furnace.
Gosh.
However, my house faced south. I got through
Yes.
6 months, and I had a little heater to plug in, but I honestly, in the daytime, I simply did not need it in the main living area of the house because I just opened up all the window coverings and I had beautiful sunlight coming in. It
Very
was
good.
lucky too. It was a sunny Canadian winter.
Oh, you were lucky that day. Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly one of the things that we consider when we are designing a passive house. So, within years and years, there were so many different standards came out to the market to create more energy efficient homes. It was not, I mean, like for example, LEED or Build Green or R2000 or so many other of them. They were not just talking about the energy efficient home. They were talking about the whole practice of construction. What does that mean? It means that when there is an existing building right there, how you're demolishing it, how you're basically reducing the amount of garbage going to the landfill. That means, are we recycling the products that is right there? And are we taking care of the land properly? And then design-wise, how we are preparing the design of the footprint of the building to make it give enough greenery to the earth to breathe too, because we're just putting concrete and asphalt and building all over the place, and the earth doesn't have that cycle of breathing throughout.
Yeah.
There's not, it's not permeability. We don't give him the permeability to the earth either. So all these designs, as well as when you build it, what kind of material are you building? You're putting in. Are they safe? Are they don't have dangerous gas emissions from it afterwards? Are they mostly recycled as a recycled product to be installed? That would be a point. You would get basically a point type of business that you will get a certificate of accomplishment of, I don't know, gold, platinum, or silver, depends on how you perform. And not only that, even the whole companies who are working on this process, if they're trying to use recycled paper, for example, in their practice, they're trying to make sure they reduce their carbon footprint. All these ones were affecting on the whole performance of the construction of the building, and then it will give pointing measurements that they will give you a certificate for that. But this passive house came up with a so much different perspective. They say, okay, you know what, I don't care about how you're practicing. That is right now become a code, in especially the city of Vancouver and many of the municipalities around, and I bet most of the other cities around Canada are doing the same thing. Many of these practices become a common practice, not a volunteer anymore. You got to make sure when you're demolishing a building, you're recycling it properly.
Right.
And some of the products are not still enforced, but like you gotta make sure you're basically you're using the proper products for your building. What Passive House says, you know what, I'm gonna measure a system of basically actually Build Green does the same, something like that, but this Passive House becomes so much more higher standard. Basically, they want to be a Rolls-Royce or Cadillac or Tesla of the industry, to be leader of producing the best quality homes in terms of energy efficiency and high performance. The high performance is the best name to call for this type of building. It means that when you are building a room or building a condo, a high-rise, a house, an office, whatever it is, it has to minimize the amount of air leaking out. So that number air leakage per square foot is so important, that how you want to make the home or the space airtight with different methodologies, so that it minimizes the air leakage. That's number one. Number two is how the building envelope is being basically exposed to the outside climate, and how we can reduce the amount of the cold or warm outside climate to come in, and the other way around as well, that how our conditioned space will not be lost, the air would not be lost, or the heat or cold is not going to be lost through the building envelope. That could be through the details that we provide, how each material is going to be connected to each other, as well as the thickness of the wall. Like, for example, long time ago we were building homes out of 2x4s, but then they become 2x6s. Within the last 5 or 6 years, City of Vancouver asked for another 2 inches of insulation, basically become at 8.5, 9. The passive house is about 12 inches thick wall. So basically it's similar to what 6.5 inches that we had before, but we are having either 3.5 inches in front of it, which is going to be 4 inches at the end, to run our pipes, our utilities, our wires. Because whenever you're running a pipe through a 2x6 wall, then that area that the pipe going through, then the insulation loses value. So you're basically jeopardizing your wall capability of being insulated by when you're adding a pipe in. So that's why we're using a 2x4 in front of that exterior wall to make sure that all the pipes going through. The same thing for the roof. We want a thicker insulation. The same thing for even the floor, for foundation and footing. All is going to sit on a layer of rigid insulation. Before it was sitting on the ground, but now it's sitting on the 12 inches of insulation. That doesn't let even the cool air comes from the ground during the winter time.
Yeah.
So
that makes great sense.
Yeah. So these are all different aspects, and one more other thing is we call it what was the word? I forgot. But we're like, for example, when two like beam and joists are meeting the walls, we don't want to make sure that the I can't remember the actual wording for that as a special name for that.
Well, I don't know it.
It doesn't let the cold air comes through the material by itself. So when I find the word, I'm gonna put it in the comments section.
That's a great idea.
But maybe people think, okay, what is the benefit of all these things? Why I have to spend a lot of money on that? As a matter of fact, when it comes to finance, that is becomes so important to know that you're not going to spend a whole lot of arm and leg for doing so, because at the end of the day, you're investing 10 to 15% more on building such a building like this, but in the long run, your operation cost, your maintenance cost was going to be a whole lot less. Besides that, because we have some trade-offs as well. In many houses, even we don't install the furnace anymore, because the heat source that you have in the home, we just sometimes put the baseboard heating, that it goes on when early in the morning when you're coming out of bed, because most of the time when you're out, when you're in your room, your body is producing 37 degrees of heat Celsius of heat, and that you are a heat producer. You become your own furnace. The same thing, your dog, for your pets, they are producing heat. your hair dryer, your oven, all these things that you, even your monitor is creating heat. So
Yes.
in a non-high performance home, all these heats are distributing to go outside the house. It's
Yes.
not staying in the home. That's why you don't feel the home is warm enough. That's why you have your thermostat goes up, and you have to bring more conditioned air through your furnace. But
Right.
when you have a proper home designed or built to passive house code, then it doesn't really require a whole lot to heat up the home.
That's very interesting. A house with no furnace here in the Northern Hemisphere. I love it.
Yes, yes.
Now, tell me, is there things, and this might be a little off topic of what you wanted to talk about today, but, well, I actually have two things I wanted to ask you about. Is there any government or utility company incentives to building such a home?
That's a very good question. See, BC Hydro is offering some grants to a certain extent, because we eventually in Lower Mainland in Canada, in Vancouver, we are going to build 100% energy efficient home within the next 5 years. We
Wow.
have several steps, like for example, some municipalities, they say, okay, passive house, or if you don't want to build a passive house, you can build step code 5 or step code 3. We want to reduce our carbon footprint. The building is going to be performing very well, but at the same time, we are not putting any gas furnace or anything that is natural gas burning. Everything is going to be electric.
Wow.
That is already some municipalities doing it, and some other municipalities are going to do next year. So it's coming. It's
Wow.
coming. Like even in
That's,
Westminster.
that's a huge step forward.
Yeah.
So now, is there anything?
Before I forget, one more incentive that especially City of Vancouver is offering. If
Yes.
you build a passive house that become more attractive for many people, because passive houses just cost a little bit more extra upfront for the certification and this kind of things. If you build a passive house, even the City of Vancouver gives you more incentives in terms of the square footage, in terms of the height, which
Oh, wow.
some other municipalities are trying to adopt that as well. So basically, if the code or the bylaw says you cannot build more than, let's say, 3,000 square feet, the City of Vancouver said, yeah, okay, you know what, because your wall thickness are thicker now, and you're going to lose maybe 25 square feet because of all that kind of things, I'm going to give you an extra 25 square foot. I'm just with the numbers, they're not actually correct, but I'm just
Yeah.
giving you an example. So you gain more square footage if you build a passive house.
That's interesting. I love this trend. I think it's going to make a difference to. Now, if you already own a home, I get that we can't thicken the walls. I'm sure we can add more insulation, but is there things that people who already have a home and they're not interested in moving or building a passive home, passive house, what kind of changes can they make to their homes to create greater energy efficiencies?
Depends on what extent of renovation they want to go in.
Right.
Right now I have a client who is building, who wants to renovate their home, and they have already some incentives because they're like a heritage type of home.
Yes.
So we have to gut the building to the start. So when we are doing this, the 2x4 already exists. What we're gonna do? We're gonna make this. When we got the wall, the whole interior and exterior, then we use that 2x4 as a core, but then we add another 2x4 in front of it, and
Right.
we add some extra insulation outside of it. So this way we gain the performance we were looking for. But if you're just doing some limited addition of limited renovation, it's very hard to gain to that.
Yeah.
Even to that point that I'm talking about, as a passive house is going to be very difficult, but we can get to, like, for example, step code 5 or even net zero, because these are a little bit easier in some terms. For example, one of the major point that is very hard to achieve is the foundation underground digging. When you
Yeah.
have an existing house, it's going to be hard to do your basically create a proper insulation under the footing.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Unless you're raising the house up or lowering the ceiling in the basement.
Those are other options that's available. Yeah, there is cases we do that as well. Either we digging down or raising the just portion of the building, or just raising the whole building. There are all different ways. We just at the end of the day we do a financial feasibility study and see if it works out well. Considering especially in the city of Vancouver, the value that the lands have, they are so attractive when you can build more than allowable by the simple, straightforward code. So it makes a lot of more sense to build a passive house, because the extra room that you get, it's just no brainers. It's just you get more value to you for your buck.
Yeah. That's impressive. I love this plan. Now, is this the building requirement now, that people who are putting homes up now in the city of Vancouver or these municipalities you're referring to, they have to be passive homes, or can people still build a typical home?
So the high performance becoming a normality. The city of Vancouver has another year to go to make it everywhere net zero building, but at the point, the city of Vancouver there are the new building code called step code 1, step code 2, step code 3, 4, 5. The older buildings were 1-1, and
right.
Like the buildings that we built 5-10 years ago elsewhere would be 2. City of Vancouver implemented step code 3 5 years ago, but still other municipalities were not forcing. Now almost, I can say, I'm not sure about City of Burnaby, but everywhere else in Lower Mainland they are forcing for step code 3 minimum.
Okay.
So
right.
that means that our wall automatically goes to 8.5 inches.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes even 9 inches, depends on what is your material.
Yeah.
And then in some, like for example, instead of West Vancouver, North Vancouver, all the North Shore municipalities, you can go step code 3 with 8.5 inches, but then you got to have no carbon footprint, which means no gas burning appliances or heating system, anything at all.
Holy cow, so it's only electric ranges? People can't use gas ranges for cooking?
No, I'm not sure what they're going to do with the barbecues, but
yeah, well, anybody who loves to cook likes cooking with gas. So
bringing a gas line to your home is an extra cost anyway, right?
Yeah.
When you're not doing it, then you don't have a gas fireplace. You have an electric fireplace.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
When you don't have that, you got to think about it. Okay, is it worth it to spend the money for my barbecue? What is gonna happen with barbecue? Maybe you're gonna just get a propane tank barbecue, or I'm using a charcoal barbecue. Even though I have my propane tank as well, just once when it's I don't really have the feeling to go through the smell of the charcoal, but yes, but I think we got to do some changes in our lifestyle to make sure that we are not destroying the earth that we were doing all these years. So we have to be pioneers, and luckily enough, our municipalities are forcing toward that.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's what we have to do. It's all wise moves, and we're going to have to sacrifice things for it, but the upsides will be very evident very quickly, I'm sure, especially when you get your power bill and it's cut significantly.
And not only that, we don't install furnaces, but we install HRVs. What does
Yeah.
that do? One of the simplest things is see outside when you go, either it's smoke, uh, dust, or any other pollutants out there. But
Yeah.
your home, today's most of the homes and older homes are more polluted than outside. Especially when it's in the wintertime, the furnace works because all the
Yeah.
dust you bring from outside is just goes through, even though it's going through a filter, but the filter doesn't do a great job. It goes to your lung. That's why we have a lot of people who have asthmas.
Mm-hmm.
But in the with the HRV system, or even ERV, which is one step ahead for making sure that the home doesn't have too much humidity for humid areas. It controls all that. Not only controls all the pollutions in the house, but even it creates a system in the room or in the whole house that is always air is moving. The air is moving very slowly and gently. As a result, you don't have the heat sitting up there and you're down here, you're cold. So the heat that is being produced either by your body or by your dog or your hair dryer, whatever it is always constantly going around. Then the temperature difference is less than 5 degrees, not even that. Whereas in a normal house, the temperature difference could be sometimes 15 to 20 degrees. You're sitting here feeling cold, but up there is like 40 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
true.
it does a lot of we pay extra money on the installation, but we pay less on the wood because we double up in some cases, but at the same time we are reducing the number of studs. So
Right.
In the long run, it makes a lot of sense to use high performance homes or build high performance homes, especially when it comes to passive house is even better. And net zero buildings, that is another initiative that the city of Vancouver putting together, is basically trying to build homes that they produce. Not only has all those initiatives of all the aspects of an energy efficient home, but even make sure that it does produce their own electricity as well, so they don't rely on grid.
Oh, wow. So that can be part of a conversation too when we're talking about solar power. I do know quite a few people who are running their homes almost entirely off solar power, and I have worked a little bit in that industry, so I know it's entirely possible to achieve that up here in Canada.
I'm happy to hear from you that you have some experience on that. See, imagine many people are thinking, oh, we are running everything from on the electrical right now, but we don't have enough infrastructure for that. Like all these electrical cars are coming, we don't have enough sources to feed all these electrical needs that we have. But that's not true. We have enough. Not only that, by adding more net zero homes that we introduce, the electricity that we consume, the more available energy we have in the grid.
That's right. So we're using less in our homes, and so more is available for people who need to charge up their cars in Hope. Yeah.
Not only that, then you're producing your own electricity. The electricity that comes freely from sun, it charges your car, it charges your... we have different system on the solar panels. One is basically only produces and consumes right away, which is the cheapest one.
Yeah.
But the most expensive one is the one that has the power bank, which is the battery.
Yeah, it sends power back to the grid, and then what happens is you end up getting a refund check at the end of a period of time because it sent power back.
I think that they don't give you that anymore.
A year ago they were. I'm not sure if they still do or not.
I have to check it. I really appreciate if our viewers have any feedback if they know of if this grant or this program still is available, that they're going to give you cash back or not. Share it with our audience. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's a great conversation to have, and this conversation about passive houses and how we're all going to move forward and look after our planet is very important. I just want to thank all of our viewers for chiming our viewing today. We didn't get any messages from any of you, but you can do that later when we play out the encore performance. And we sure hope that you'll share this to your friends and share the knowledge.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
See you next week.